My name's Null. I'm from Meridian, Mississippi. I'm 30 years old. My childhood growing up, my grandfather actually owned a chain of convenience stores, so money really wasn't an issue at a young age. My mother and father, my dad, he worked construction for like companies like APAC and construction crews like that, running a milling machine. So he worked a lot. When I was 5 years old, both of my parents and my cousin were arrested for conspiracy to manufacture methamphetamine. That's where a series of events for my life really changed. That started a point in my life where both of my parents were in and out of prison, and me and my sister would live with my grandparents. So even though that money really wasn't an issue at a young age like that, you still wonder, as a child, am I just not good enough? Or you can have all these different things and still not have your parents. And I was very against drugs or anything that had to do with that because of my parents and the lifestyles that they had chose. When my grandfather got sick and passed away, you hear it time and time again how people start hanging out with the wrong crowd, and it just boils down to the fear of being rejected and the need to feel accepted. I didn't want to feel that way no more. And going in at 13 years old, I started hanging around people that I did feel accepted by. I started making even worse decisions going into high school. My drug addiction began going into ninth grade. I started smoking weed and drinking and just hanging around with the wrong people. At 15 years old, I started taking Xanax, and which led me to going to rehab for the first time when I was 15. I found something in the form of a pill that I didn't have to remember what yesterday was, and tomorrow I would wake up and not know what I did the day before, and it was just a form of escape. And after I got out of that rehab, I started dabbling in harder things like cocaine and Oxycontin, and it got to the point where at 16, if there wasn't an Oxycontin getting placed in my hand, then I wasn't getting up and going to school that day. I started doing cocaine. I can remember I was almost 17 and I thought I was doing cocaine one night, and it turned out to be meth, and that completely changed my life. 17 years old, I was a kid and was already putting a needle in my arm. So as you can imagine, I burned every bridge that I could have. And I thought that that's how life was for me. I didn't see a way out. I'm very blessed to be alive today because I should have been dead or in prison for sure, the life that I was living just at such a young age. At 20, I'm sitting in a drug house on my 20th birthday, and my grandma calls me. And she says, I just want you to know that I went to church for you tonight, and I went to the altar that you would do something different with your life. God was nowhere in my life growing up. I might have had an aunt that took me to vacation Bible school, or my grandmother might have tried to push me to go to the church with the neighbor kids or something, but there was, my grandmother was the type of lady that would have the sewing cabinet, the Bible in the sewing cabinet, and watch Jimmy Swaggart on the weekends. But she was a very incredible woman, and God just was never nowhere around. If anything, if God was real, then I hated God because I blamed God for everything that had ever happened to me growing up. People's choices, I blamed God for all that. And she prayed that I would do something different with my life, and she said that she had met some people that had their son in Teen Challenge in Mississippi and said that they'd come and pick me up and take me down there if I wanted to do something different. And I told them that they needed to be there in the morning to pick me up, and they did. When I went to Teen Challenge, I had no intentions on staying. I thought it would just be a place to get off the streets for a few days and rethink a strategy of what I was going to do next. And after about a week of being there, I seen that some people weren't really trying, but then there was a few people who were taking this thing serious. And me and God had a moment, and I told him, I said, if you're real, then you're going to have to show me, because I'm not just going to do what everybody else is just doing because they say that this is what it is. I gave Jesus a try, and the love, once you truly understand as Jesus being your Father and God being your, the Lord being your Father, that He is the perfect example of a father. And like, God's love doesn't compare to human love at all. Just knowing that that God loved me so much that He never let me die in my addiction. Before coming to Teen Challenge, I had already overdosed at least twice that I was aware of. So many things that I could speak on with that I really I'm choosing not to say, because none of that glorifies God. What does glorify Him is the fact that I am sitting in front of you today. Coming to Teen Challenge and reality setting in without the drugs of all the choices that I had made at that time, I knew that I wanted a different life. I just never knew that there really was a better option out. Coming to Teen Challenge and actually trying this program and trying a different way of life was not easy. This program is called Teen Challenge for a reason. It was not an easy thing to do, especially for someone like myself that had no structure at all. I made the rules in my world. No one was going to tell me what to do or how to do it, and that had got me in a world of trouble. And coming somewhere where they tell you, hey, your feet's got to be on the floor at a certain time, and they're just being structure. I needed that more in my life than I ever would have thought going through it. Coming up here to the Cape Girardeau campus, the Lord really just blessed me with His presence. I really learned how to come into a closer relationship with Jesus, and I'm forever grateful for that. This became my home. And you say, well, where did it all go wrong if that was 2017? I stayed and worked as a staff intern here for a short period of time, 6 or 7 months. And then I left. I got married. And God blessed me with an awesome career at the same time. I worked at Volkswagen in Chattanooga, Tennessee, building cars on an assembly line. And somewhere along the way, my job became my idol, and God the society won't tell you that it's wrong if you work 120 hours a week. If you work 20 hours a day, like, that's not an issue to no one. And if I could go to work on Sunday, then I would do that. Steadily trying to prepare a good life for a family that, in all reality, I was losing at the same time. I stayed at that job for 5.5 years. In 2020, I was blessed with a child. Me and my wife were blessed with a son, and that just caused me to work even more. We was very grateful to have a child, but that caused me to just take it up a whole nother step when it comes to the providing. And I was never there. I would see my wife whenever I come in the door and whenever I was leaving again. With that being said, my marriage started getting a little rocky. My father passed away. My wife's grandmother passed away. 2021 just was a bad year all around. Me and my wife decided to make a decision to move back to Mississippi, and I had not been back to that place for real since I had got clean. That's where everything that had bad happened in my life happened there. My wife had never been around the addict version of me. I stayed clean all this time, and 2022, we moved back in that February, and I start pushing myself back around people, places, things, family members that I shouldn't have, and I started making little compromises. Well, society drinks. Is it that bad if I have a drink? Or everybody says it's okay to smoke weed now. It's legal. So I started making those little compromises, but in my mind I hadn't relapsed. My 7-year clean mark, Father's Day, and my birthday all fell in the same week. And I relapsed on meth, and it wasn't 3 months later, I was back putting a needle in my arm again after 7 years. So part of me had thought that I had no compassion for people in drug addiction. I always said it would never happen to me again too, and it became a point of pride where I thought that I was better than that, and I made a decision to get out of that lifestyle. So if someone else wanted out of it, then they would just make the choice to get out of it too. There was just no sympathy in any of it, and I put my wife and child through about 6 months of just chaos. I experimented with things like fentanyl that I'd never messed with. I mean, the enemy just opened up his hands and was like, whatever you want, here you go, you can have it. And I'm lucky to be alive. Without going into a lot of detail, I'm just lucky to be alive. I felt the Lord speak to me for the first time in a while in December. And my wife never forced me to come back to Teen Challenge or anything like that, but I felt the Lord tell me, he said, you can either come back and get right with me, or I'm going to let you go on your own way. And I really felt that meant that I was going to die. So I made a decision to come back here on restoration for 6 months. And there was a lot of things that I thought I'd fixed the first time that were still there. I mentioned that root of feeling accepted and the fear of being rejected. I didn't get that dealt with till this time coming through the program. Laying my family down at the altar, well, what does that mean? Hey, there's things in my life that I can't control right now. I can't control what happened yesterday. I don't know what's coming tomorrow, but right now, God, I'm saying that I trust that you got all this taken care of, and I'm just making good decisions for right now. There's such a peace came over me whenever that happened, and my family's been completely restored to me out of all that. I had the opportunity to go and work back at Volkswagen. I literally had an interview the same day that I was supposed to start back work here as a staff intern again. And I felt that God was calling me back to stay here again, even though it didn't make no sense, especially on the money side of it. But I, for the first time in my life, wanted what God's will was for my life instead of just something that I could come up with on my own. That first year was pretty tough because I still had a lot of my own will and desires that I was dying to. When anything around you, God didn't say that it was all going to make sense. Whenever he calls us to do something, he didn't say that it was going to make sense. But Lord, I feel that I'm still following in your will, so I'm going to keep doing what you're telling me to do, even if it doesn't. I went on a missions trip in March of 24, and it completely changed my life. I was always the type of guy that said, oh, well, missionaries, that's good. I'm happy for you. That's good what you're doing. I just always had said that something like that really wasn't for me. I had a fear of leaving the country and not being able to get back in. Like, it was something weird, but I understood it after I got down there why. Enemy never wanted me to get a taste of truly what miracles, signs, and wonders were. We were blessed to be a part of a prayer team down there in El Salvador, and the guy just told us, hey, pray for these people the way that you would your family. And there's 26 of us, and there was 30,000 people, and these people are just bringing you the sick. I always believed that I would tell you that I believed everything that the Bible said was true. But when it comes to someone being healed in front of you, I would have to see it to really believe it, because even if you was to watch something like that on television, it'd make you sort of skeptical probably. We got down there, and I can remember I prayed for nothing special about me. We asked them, do you believe that Jesus can do this for you today? And once they said yes, and you just pray for them the way that you would want to be prayed for somebody else. And I seen people that were blind in their eyes start to regain sight. I seen older people that had to walk with a cane and talking about how there's so much joint pain and stuff in their legs that they wanted prayer to be able to walk, and them throwing the cane and taking off walking. I seen people that were just getting delivered from probably addiction. I'm not sure on that, but you could just tell that there was a deliverance coming up over them. I seen people that were demonically oppressed come up and praying over them people and being healed. The one that really changed my life after God showed me all that was the very last person that I had prayed for down there had been wheelchair bound their whole life. And this guy had on 4 sizes too big pants, shoes untied, no belt on, had no intentions of getting up that day. But I remember the scripture that when Jesus told the person laying by the pool, he said, if you want to be well, he said, get up, take up your mat and walk. And I just remembered that in that moment, and I asked the guy if he believed that Jesus could heal him, and he said yes. And I told him to get up and walk. And if you can imagine someone ever not walking before, it was not the prettiest thing. I mean, we had to take off our belt and put it around this guy, but the smile that broke out across this guy's face when we were just balancing in him walking on his legs around this field, I mean, it changed my life. There's nothing that you can't tell me that God cannot do. I never thought that me following God's will, the things that I would have experienced since I've started to do it. My son is 5 years old and more on fire for God, and knows more about Jesus than it took me 25 years to get to the point he's at 5 years old. I have a beautiful and loving wife that I do not deserve to have. I have a good life. Jesus is the only thing. He is the only reason that any of this is what it is. I never thought that I would be the program director at Adult and Teen Challenge. He's the one who gets the glory out of it all.